The keto diet. Very, very controversial stuff. Some people say it's incredible. It's the best thing ever for weight loss. It's the best thing for brain health. It's the best thing for athletic performance. And there's other people saying, wait a minute, hold on, not so fast. There's actually a whole bunch of research that suggests maybe those things are not quite true. There are, in my opinion, many, many people in this field who misrepresent the science, who cherry pick the science to support their particular dietary dogmas and belief systems or their financial agendas. One of the people who I respect the most, maybe the most of anybody in this field as a low-carb keto expert, is Luis Villaseñor. And I had him on the podcast to discuss. It was a wonderful episode. I highly recommend listening to the full-length episode. The link for that is down in the description below. But here's a wonderful little piece of that provides some excellent value. So listen to this little clip and also check out the full-length podcast. Enjoy.
Right?
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so where do I want to go from here? Okay, there's a few topics I want to touch on. Before we get there, I want to just talk on potential side effects or harms that sometimes people can experience with keto diets. I would love, there's two things I want your comments on. One is, there's this classic case I've seen many, many, many times of typically middle-aged woman who goes keto, experiences wonderful benefits for a month, 3 months, 6 months, and then feels terrible, like feels the worst they've ever felt in their life. And then they maybe even think, it's the few remaining carbs in my diet. It's because I'm eating 60 grams of carbs per day instead of 20. So I'm going to lower carbs even more. And then they go more extreme and they end up just feeling really bad, having chronic fatigue, having a number of other side effects, hormonal issues, losing their period, things like that. I want to get your comments on that. And then there's also this issue of unrelated, partially unrelated. There are some people who go keto, who go on a low carb, high fat diet, and then their cholesterol numbers and triglycerides are just off the charts. And their doctor's like, you got to get off this diet. You've even seen examples of, like you were talking about, bulletproof coffee, people just adding butter to their coffee and cholesterol numbers, triglyceride numbers just looking horrific after a month of doing that. So I would love for you to just comment on those two things, and feel free to address them in whatever order, however you want.
Yeah, for sure. On the problem with feeling bad on the diet for a while, it's very much, I think we were, way touching it at the beginning. There are correct ways to do a diet, and there are bad ways to do a diet. So the diet or the version of keto that I propose is more so like a choose your own adventure with certain caveats. And this means I propose a diet that is very high in micronutrients. So if, like, a lot of the people that are against keto, especially doctors and nutritionists, their usual comment is, you should not be doing a diet which takes away a whole macronutrient, right? And if you ask them why, what's the reasoning behind of this, is because that's where you're going to get most of your vitamins and minerals. And then if we look at that explanation, and that's the main reason they're against, a well-formulated ketogenic diet should not have any deficiency. How I teach people to do a ketogenic diet is, like, in most cases they end up eating more vegetables and fruits that they were eating before. So it's focusing on certain micronutrients that may be missing. The issue is that a lot of people don't track, and they don't want to track on a ketogenic diet. So I suggest for a few, at least weeks or even months, let's track, just so that you are aware which foods are optimal for you in certain issues, like that you are not really eating sticks of butter and just meat, but rather, okay, let's have eggs, sardines, maybe walnuts, some low carb fruits, like you can have berries, cantaloupe, etc. In certain occasions, lots of greens, zucchini, chayote, etc. There are a lot of foods, like usually they say, oh, but you need vitamin C. I can get you probably 20 or 25 different sources of low carb vegetables that are higher in vitamin C than just some fruits. But it's like just what we think, first. Or potassium or magnesium. Again, it's mostly what I've seen, deficiencies in certain micronutrients because the people tend to oversimplify the diet and just eating, or keto foods that are pre-made, or things that are not very nutrient dense. Cheese, a lot of cheese, yeah, probably. You're not going to get issues with calcium on keto, but you're overeating on fats. And yeah, outside of probably vitamin D, there may be some key nutrients that you may not be getting if you're just eating, cheese and butter on the diet, right? So it's not. It's about how I try to explain people is forget about ketones and let's eat or get away with as much vegetables as we can on your diet rather than going to 15 or 20 or 10 grams of total carbs. Most of my clients, depending on their context, we may start at 20 net carbs, which in reality may be 50 or 60 depending on which food sources we eat. But eventually I try to increase them to 60, 80, 100 or more once they are like more metabolically flexible and their body has adapted to or does well with this certain amount of carbs. So that's one issue. And talking about cholesterol, also we work with my company is not just a coaching company. We also have clinical labs and we do like online clinic. So we do look at a little bit of everything. And one of the things we work with Dr. Guillermo, which you're fairly familiar with.
Yeah.
And we don't like that people have super high levels of cholesterol. And this is something that has been diminished a lot on certain low carb communities. And it's like, oh yeah, it's like chasing the new high score, right? I'm having 600 total cholesterol. Like, yeah, I'm better than you. No, cholesterol is not bad per se. Probably we had a little bit of a bad interpretation from the 80s to now on certain types of cholesterol and certain conditions, but it doesn't also mean that you have to have it as high as possible. Like there's like ranges, right? So every time that I see someone with a higher cholesterol of 250, I want to go and see exactly how their diet is, because you will have probably higher cholesterol than some people if you do a keto diet correctly, but your ratios, your HDL, triglycerides, etc., usually are in most cases better than optimal versus someone that does a more traditional diet. Like just for reference, usually you need to have a ratio of 1 or less than 2 on most markers, and people that follow our approach end up there, but also end up with 220, 230 at most total cholesterol. What's the main reason or the main difference? We're not overeating on saturated fat, even if it's not all bad. Okay, it's not the same having 3 eggs a day and maybe some meat, etc., than again all the butter and all the cheese, etc. Let's add a little bit of olive oil, and again, to a point. You should not be eating 200 grams of fat unless you're probably a CrossFit athlete that eats training 5 hours a day and you actually require that amount of calories. If you are a soccer mom that maybe does 3 or 4 sessions of strength training or whatever per week, but you're mostly doing housework, or maybe you work on on a computer, clerical work, whatever, you also don't need that much energy. And because the energy is fat, let's just taper it down. Maybe it's better to add a little bit more carbs, etc., rather than just adding fat for the sake of being in a ketogenic diet.
Hey, this is Ari. I hope you enjoyed this video. And one more thing before you go. Actually, 2 more things. One is, if you enjoyed this particular little clip, the link to the full-length podcast is in the description down below. So make sure to check that out. Also, one more thing. Let me ask you a question. What if I could show you how to double your energy levels and dramatically improve your brain function, reducing your anxiety and depression to a degree on par with antidepressant drugs, but without the side effects? Sound pretty interesting? Well, there are, in fact, numerous compounds that can do this, that have been shown to do this. And I'll take you through just a few of these very briefly. One of them is rhodiola rosea. And this has been shown in studies, rhodiola rosea extract in people with stress-related fatigue and exhaustion to cut their levels of fatigue and brain fog in half in less than a month. just this one compound. There's another compound in my formula Energenesis called NT factor phospholipids that's been shown to help repair mitochondrial membranes and mitochondrial health to the level of healthy 29-year-olds, taking people with deteriorated mitochondria who are over the age of 65, restoring it to the level of healthy 29-year-olds. And that has been shown in numerous studies in various types of chronic fatigue, aging-associated chronic fatigue, obesity-related chronic fatigue syndrome, to increase energy levels by 30 to 45% in the span of 4 to 12 weeks, depending on the specific study. So dramatic improvements in a very, very short period of time. Two more compounds that are amazing, I highly recommend, that are in my formula Ultra Brain, along with Rhodiola rosea. Saffron extract. This has been shown to increase levels of, improve your mood, I should say, and decrease levels of depression on par with fluoxetine, which is Prozac. And not only that, but with fewer side effects. It's much safer and much less likely to cause negative effects than antidepressant drugs are. Acetyl L-carnitine is another compound that's been shown to dramatically improve brain health in older adults. It also improve energy levels in older adults with chronic fatigue by between 40 to 50% in just the span of 2 to 4 months. And the last thing I'll mention here is acetyl L-carnitine has also been compared to antidepressant drugs and been shown, like saffron, to be as effective as antidepressant drugs in combating depression, but without the harmful side effects that so often occur with the drugs. So this is just a small sampling of the over 35 compounds that are in my formulas, Energenesis and Ultra Brain, that are all proven to dramatically improve energy levels, mitochondrial health, and brain health, and much, much more. And I highly recommend that you go check these out. If you're struggling with depression or anxiety or brain fog, if you're struggling with stress-related exhaustion and burnout, if you're struggling with chronic fatigue, go check out these formulas, give them a shot. I promise you are going to be blown away by the results. And like I said, the science has already proven that these things work. So you don't have to just take my word for it. There's lots of research to support that, and I'll even link to some of that research down below so you can verify everything that I just said for yourself. So the links to those studies will be in the description for this video down below. So check them out. Check out the formulas on theenergyblueprint.com. Again, Energenesis is the mitochondrial formula, and Ultra Brain is our brain formula. Check them out, try them out, and I think you're going to be blown away by the results. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you again soon.